Hey everyone, welcome back to another segment of Partner Pairings from Practice by Numbers. I'm Rebecca Bolden, and today I am joined by a recognizable face in the world of dentistry, Dr. Bob DeConchi, CEO, Dental Division at one of our newest partners, Edge. And so if you've been following those conversations, because I certainly have seen so many of these conversations happening in dentistry and online lately about staffing and operational efficiency. It just continues to become, one of the biggest challenges practices are facing right now. And that's one of the reasons why I've appreciated the work Edge is doing. Edge has built this really thoughtful operational support model that helps practices create scalable systems through remote workforce solutions, especially in areas like scheduling, billing, insurance verification, collections, and patient communication. And Bob, from the conversations that I've had with the team members that I've been working with at Edge, one thing that really stands out to me is how much Edge focuses on helping practices create this operational stability. So I'm really excited to dive into this conversation today.
Awesome. So I'm glad that you actually contacted us. And I know we have a partnership the other way around, but this partnership is also very important because I know Practice by Numbers concentrates on numbers, right? It's in your name, and one of the biggest, or actually the biggest cost for a dental practice is staffing.
Yeah.
And Edge started during the pandemic when we couldn't find any employees, but now the problem has shifted into the cost of living. And I'm not blaming the employees for wanting to make more, because the cost of living has gone up, and
Right.
and business owners are squeezed. Edge provides a solution for you to not only free your front desk from doing mundane work that someone else can do that doesn't need face-to-face interaction, but also at savings of 60 to 70%, depending on what part of the country you are. It can help practices not just survive, but thrive and grow.
Yeah.
And that's where Edge comes in.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of the times it's just not being able to find the right team member, or to find somebody who is qualified, or maybe your front desk team member who's doing a gazillion things is also trained as an assistant, and they're much more effective on the clinical side right now than in the front office. So really excited to have you on, talk about a couple things today. Again, we have Bob D here, who is the CEO of the Dental Division at Edge. And Bob, man, you've done so many different things. I should be calling you a doctor as well, because you're a practicing dentist. But I'm curious, what originally drew you to Edge?
This is a really cool story. Edges, and I'm not sure actually the founders, the CEO and the president, know this story. I think I've told them before. When I started my Facebook group and my platform early on, this is probably 3 months after the pandemic closure. I started my Facebook group 8 days after the after the pandemic closure on March 20th of 2020. This guy just cold call messages me on Facebook and says, I want to sponsor your group. And back then, I didn't have any sponsors. I didn't know what it was. I actually blocked them. I said, you're a scam artist. You're trying to hack into my computer.
Oh, no. How far we've come, right? In the last 6 years.
I mean, he no longer is with Edge, but he was the only salesperson. Now we have a very large sales team. And that grew into a relationship that I actually, as you know, I meet with the sponsors of my platform, and we advise them on how to fine tune your message. And eventually, I became friends with the CEO and the president. I took this job to help them grow their dental division, because they are a big player in medical practices, and insurance agencies. And one of the reasons our security for Edge is unmatched by, I put it against any remote employee company, is because we deal with a lot of hospitals and medical um,
Yeah.
practices, and we need to be up and up. We have a 24/7 IT department that takes care of all things. So, yeah, they approached me. We talked a little bit. At first, it was jokingly, do this and do that. But then I guess it was the right fit, and I enjoy it. One of the things that I am proud of is that we are changing lives in different countries around the world. This is a global economy now, and there are, I hire three Edge remote talent myself, and they're grateful and they're smart, and they're basically, in my opinion, the future of front desk in a dental office.
Nice. Um, well, that's an interesting story how you came to be associated with Edge, and I'm excited. I think it's great because you're utilizing them in your office as well, and you've had this long relationship with them. So it seems like a perfect transition to help them with the dental division. You're a great expert for them to have on their team. Um, one of the issues, or one of the things I'd rather say that I've noticed from conversations that I've had with, uh, the Edge team and some of the industry reporting that Edge has shared, is that the staffing issue in dentistry isn't just about hiring anymore. It's become more of this operational scalability issue. We hear a lot about the staffing shortages in clinical roles. Every day I see, I'm short a hygienist, or I'm looking for
Yeah.
additional dental assistants. But Edge has talked quite a bit about this hidden pressure happening in the administrative positions as well. What are some of the biggest operational bottlenecks like you're seeing practices struggle with right now?
This is maybe a difficult question for someone who doesn't have a dental practice to answer, but I can just close my eyes and imagine the phones are ringing, and my two front desks, one is one hand with one phone and the other hand is putting on hold. Can I pick it? And somebody else is coming up front to schedule an appointment, and one of the doctors needs help. So the bottleneck is that there are things that can be done remotely, and there are things that need face-to-face employees. Um, when I came to Edge, I did bring two ideas for them that I want it to be the philosophy of Edge. Number one, we will not participate in the race to the bottom as far as the cost goes. Why? Because I know I don't care how much cheaper it is if the person I'm hiring is going to drop the call when a new patient calls my office. I
Right.
mean, what kind of a cost is that going to have on my practice, right? And the
Yeah.
second thing was, we're not going to get rid of our great employees. This is not a threat to the in-person employees. This is helping them to be more productive and do things that need a face-to-face interaction. So
Absolutely. Yeah.
things that I train my Edge employees, or at least I have in the past, is that calling insurance companies and getting verification. I know a lot of people are doing AI this and AI that, but at the end of the day, you still have to call at times. And
Yeah.
sometimes those on hold calls are about 30 to 45 minutes that you have to be on the phone. Answering phones and scheduling. We just did a 2-minute promo that was impromptu, and Dr. Vule, the I don't know if you ever interviewed him or not. You should.
I haven't.
He's the inventor of VPR, Vu's photo rig.
Oh, wow.
He's a 3D guru, and he has created something that you attach it to your phone, it becomes a dental camera. It's an awesome thing.
Oh,
But
nice.
this year he hired an Edge talent. He called me and he said, Bob, I have to tell you, I have had the best quarter of my practice's history since I hired Edge employee, and I said, "Stop! We need to record because it's the greatest
Yeah.
commercial for us." And he had no idea, and we released it. Um, and he said that we didn't have an extra body to go back and see what treatment wasn't scheduled.
Mm,
And literally, they went back, and our schedule became half full, then fuller. And now we're booking into 3 weeks because this Edge employee is finding work that needed to be done. Patients wanted to do it, but for one reason or another, they
right.
postpone it. And it's worked great for him. And that's one of the things we can do. So I call it uh, recall reactivation. You call the
Yeah.
patient to come back for cleanings when they've forgotten, or reactivation of these treatment plans that are sitting and nobody remembers. I don't remember. My front desk is too busy to remember, right? I know that practice by numbers can create these reports for you.
Yeah. And
You
one of
know,
the things that we can do too is we can help in that timeline. I know this isn't really about practice by numbers, but um, we can send some automated pushes to get that patient to schedule or get that patient to come back in for the scheduled treatment. But in that timeline, we can also set up that manual touch, and that manual touch, when that team doesn't have time to do it, it can be outsourced, and it can be that extension of your team with an Edge employee who can reach out to those patients to discuss challenges they might have been facing in scheduling and get them back on the schedule. It's just, those things that are burning out the front desk team members, trying to get everything done.
Yeah, 100%. And I know you said this is not about practice by numbers, but it is. Um, Many dentists, like myself, we utilize services like practice by numbers,
Mhm.
but we only use 20% of the functions. Can you imagine if you have a dedicated person that you walk in the morning and gives you, "Hey, doc, look at the PBN report for this morning." You know, Having someone in charge of that. That's why I actually brought up the idea to Edge that we need to partner with software that people are paying for, kind of like, I pay for a gym membership. I feel like I'm healthy, right? I'm not going. But by just, you know, getting PBN, you need to utilize it. And an Edge employee, these are smart people that you can train them to do what we want them to do, basically.
Yeah. And one of the things I know, d I'm in a bunch of different groups, as, I know you are as well, both in person and online, and, I do hear that burnout, right? Like, I hear about, doctor burnout, and there's a lot of different ways, doctors can help overcome that by delegating and whatnot, but front office team members too, you know, I guess, what do you in your opinion, like, what are offices underestimating about front office team member burnout?
You know, I'm going through it right now.
Mm,
Isabel, if you're listening, I'm sorry. We had an injury in one of our assistants. So my
mm.
office manager is playing three roles. And he's looking at me. I went there, and when this happened, she didn't feel bad for me. I guess she got even with me when I hurt myself
Oh, no.
on my head. But yeah, I mean, um, can you imagine if we have an extra person at least answering the phones and
Yeah,
getting the appointments? So and at a cost of you know 60 to 70% less, it's a no brainer. And I want people listening to understand that the way you approach it with your you know current employees is that this is not a threat to your job. This is for you to be able to work smarter, not harder, right?
yeah,
You can utilize an extra person. I can't really hire someone else because my payroll costs are going through the roof already. So this is some way I can help you. So that's how they should approach it, and that's how I approach it with my team.
yeah. Oh, good. Well, one thing, I appreciate, and part of the reason, we partnered with Edge is just because of Edge's approach, and it doesn't really, it doesn't feel transactional. What Edge is doing for dental offices, you guys aren't just plugging people into seats, right? Like, you're helping practices rethink their workflows. Like, what could we really do if
Mhm.
Susan didn't have to answer every phone call anymore? Like, she's trained on other things. What's the best use of her time, of delegation, helping offices think more around their operational structure. What are some misconceptions practices still have about remote workforce support?
You know, what I do is I've written a little two-pager to get the dentist ready for this idea, right?
Yeah.
Because everybody's using it, but we're a small business and we think, oh my God, my patients do not want to talk to someone that's not in the office.
Yeah.
How do they know? I don't even think I ever ask, are you in the office? Or are you working from home? So another motto I bring to Edge is that we don't give you a remote employee. We give you an employee that works remotely. This is part of your team. This person gets up, I don't know, in the middle of the night, so it would be 8 to 5 for us, um, and logs in on a company issued equipment with a VPN, highest security, 24/7 monitored equipment. This is not a Fiverr outsourcing. We go in there and we find someone. No, we have built campuses in three different countries, right? So the misconceptions are security, and I got to tell you, we have SOC 2 security. For people who know me, I'm a kind of like I love technology, but we have better security than a lot of American companies. And what I want to tell you is that I feel a lot more secure when my Edge employee accesses my information than my in-person employees doing it on their own computer at home.
Yeah.
They don't have any. So the security part, we are doing great. Patients would rather talk to someone than leave a voicemail. So if someone is available, that's going to help you out. But the other misconceptions are command of the English language, and I got to tell you, um, you know, you wouldn't even be able to tell some of our employees how good. And obviously, it's a different country, but they we make sure we hire people that have a good command of the English language.
Oh, good. Yeah. Well, Dr. D, at PBN, we spend a lot of time helping practices create this visibility around operational performance, right? Like, that's where we started off with all of our
Mhm.
KPIs. And I think there's a strong connection between visibility and staffing efficiency, because if practices don't know where bottlenecks exist, they can't fix them. So,
Mhm.
um, how does bringing on Edge like help practices kind of moreover identify what's actually slowing them down operationally?
Um, you know, you'd be surprised how much more productive your current employees could be when they have the time. You know, um, my assistants sometimes ask help from the Edge employees, right? To call this supply company and see what's going on. They can. Each practice is obviously different, but I feel that bringing someone else into the office, an extra person that is not interrupted by someone walking in, by a doctor coming up front asking a question, and constantly they're sitting there and they're doing the task they're given. And that's another thing I like for people to understand is that I everyone is different. I treat my edge talent, as we call them, I give them tasks. Get the task done. If it takes 2 hours, it takes 30 minutes. I'm not checking to see what it is. A lot of people get caught up in being very efficient. But if you're task based, it can actually get a lot more work done, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I
And
hope
that
that
way
answers
it's
your question.
yeah, it's like batching that too, right?
Yeah.
So I know, you know, again, like, I know Edge works with different dental practices at all different stages of growth, um, based off of, I guess, Bob, this is could be based off of just your expertise, but especially in your role there at Edge. What have you seen that separates practices that scale successfully using a remote employee from practices that just constantly feel overwhelmed, or like who is a remote employee best for?
You know, I have to be a sales guy now. The remote employee can be used by anyone. Like,
Yeah.
let's go through the stages. A startup practice, you sometimes can only hire one person that's assisting and going up front and doing certain things. But while they're assisting, what if the phone rings or somebody
Yeah.
walks in, or things like that? I know a guy who hired an Edge employee and put a couple of cameras up, and they literally, as someone would walk in, the Edge employee would see them. And, that's an
Hey,
extreme,
but
right?
you get
you know,
creative, right?
exactly. They couldn't find a front desk, and this is what he came up with until they hired an extra front desk. As far as scalability goes, there's no one better than the Dr. Jason Tenori. He's got over 160 employees, and they had some experiences with remote employees, and they weren't happy. Now I think they hire two from Edge. So in both extremes, they can be very, very productive. But my advice is know what you want. Write down on a piece of paper why you're hiring a remote employee or a remote talent.
Well,
It's with
yeah.
everything else, with software and products, and the thing. Before you sign on the dotted line, make sure you visualize why you're doing it, and then you have something to work towards, and start training them for that. If you bring them in and you think that they're going to know, we baseline train the employees. They know what an insurance coverage is, the treatment plan, teeth numbers, things like that. But they don't know how your office runs. You need to still train them. You know,
Yeah.
so have realistic expectations, set some time aside to train them, figure out the communication the first 2 weeks or so. And I will tell you, you will call me and thank me 6 months after you hire them, because they're so hardworking, the Edge talent.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, I know, the Edge team's having conversations every day with practices who are, trying to navigate staffing and profitability and growth. Where do you think dental operators are headed over the next few years? Crystal ball.
Dental operators. I don't like to use that word. Come on.
Okay. Well, then,
The doctors.
it depends upon the size of the practice too, right? Like some dentists are practicing dentists, chair side owners, facilitate as an operator as well. And some dentists, they have delegated a lot of the operational functions of their dental practice to that office manager, that regional manager. So like when I say the word dental operators, I think about, you know, both both dentists and your, operational
Yeah,
team
yeah,
rather.
I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
Listen, it- as far as the big business of dentistry goes, there's still 20% of the landscape, right? And there's still 80% private practices. So where are we going? We're continuing on the same path, meaning everything is getting more expensive. Gas is getting more expensive. The cost of living is going up. When you had to pay $5 for a cup of coffee, now you're paying $7 for a cup of coffee. And who is feeling that? Not the doctor. The employees are feeling that. So you
Right.
have to give raises, regular raises. Where are you going to get that? The insurance companies are not raising your fees. So
Yeah.
um, one of the things that I have in my office that people make fun of me, one of my early passwords, we don't use that anymore, hackers, don't be using it. It was called less waste, right? And my motto was waste less so I can keep my air conditioning up, because I like the office nice and cold, right? So
Yeah.
when you're grabbing that piece of gauze, don't grab two, grab the one that you need. Don't waste so I can spend it elsewhere. Exactly the same way. If I
Yeah.
can save money by hiring an Edge employee to call the insurance companies, I can spend an extra dollar an hour for that um, employee that's been loyal to me, that stayed with me for so many years. So it's just shifting cost and benefit, in my opinion, where we're going. We need to be smart about the business. We need to know our numbers. If you don't know your numbers, you don't know if you need a remote employee. That's why this partnership between PBN and Edge is so important, that we're going to show you where to save money, right? By using PBN, and we can implement it by hiring an Edge employee.
Awesome. Yeah, absolutely. Well, Bob, this has been such a great conversation. I just really appreciate the perspective that you and the team at Edge brings to this industry, because operational support, workforce strategy, has become such an important part of practice growth conversations, and I think it's only going to continue to be so. I've seen it pop up probably more often in the last year than I had in previous years, and so I think partnerships like this matter, because practices need more than just the technology or the staffing alone. They need they need systems, they need visibility, they need operational structure, and then things that actually support that sustainable growth. And I don't see our economy changing things anytime soon. So Edge is the perfect solution. Hey, for anybody listening who wants to connect with Edge to learn more, what's the best way to do that?
You know, the best way to do it, if you're on Facebook, send me a message. I'm
Okay.
available 24/7, right, Rebecca?
Yeah.
There's no
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. You don't sleep, Bob.
send me a message. If you have show notes, we can put a link in there for you guys um, to contact us. But if you have any questions, I get on the phone and I explain to you how I implemented the Edge employees. The first thing I tell people is take a deep breath. It's almost like hiring a high school kid to pull charts for you. That's how we used to do it back in the day, right? The low cost employee in our office were high school kids that were summertime. Now we have remote employee that can help us. But yeah, send me a message, look in the show notes, and see if there is a link, and then we can help you.
Awesome. Well, thanks everyone for taking another look at this episode of Partner Pairings from Practice by Numbers. We love highlighting partners who are helping practices improve operations, support their teams, and create smarter growth strategies. So we will see you next time.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Bob.